Good morning, Gold Counties. We're broadcasting live today from the square at Copper Valley in Copperopolis, California. We're Vince and Vicki, and today's show is brought to you by the Creative Community Co-op. So now here's our host, Rich Varrasso.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Hey, Rich Varrasso here, and I want to thank you for joining me on Creative Community's Good Morning Show. We're Gold County's wake-up call. So we're here to talk about our community, but first I want to introduce you to a veteran guy, and he's very vigilant about our taxes. Al Sagalla. Come on up, Al. And so, Al, before we start the show, can we do a pledge of allegiance to the flag?
Certainly.
Let's do that.
Please follow me. The flag is on the window behind you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I like that, Al. Hey, Al, you know, and we don't pledge to the flag enough. Sometimes they're trying to take that away, and I didn't like that, so we're going to do that here. How does the flag tie into the Constitution?
Well, I think one of the important things about the flag, it has the way of unifying people. The whole country is unified along certain basic principles. And now this is also the purpose of the Constitution. Believe it or not, the first time in all of human history came the concept of people having individual rights. This is unheard of before. And our founding fathers put this down very well in the Declaration of Independence. It stated that we have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The big three.
The pursuit of happiness. Now, most people don't know this. Pursuit of happiness is not in the Constitution. It's in the Declaration of Independence. In the Constitution, in the 5th and 14th Amendment, the basic rights are called to be life, liberty, and property. Different, but fundamental. So pursuit of happiness, of course, it's a right, but it's under liberty. And if you're pursuing money, of course, then you've got property involved. So there's some other things about the Constitution that people don't recognize or even know about. One of them is the form of government is a republic, not a democracy. And it's only in the last 70 years or so that many politicians are calling the United States a democracy. And there's some court rulings that tend to make it so. One man, one vote. This happened in California. Now, many people don't realize one of the problems we have for poor taxpayers in Calaveras County is that the one man, one vote shifted control of the state, the power of the state, to the highly populated areas, where under a republic, each area would have its own representatives. That's what it should be. And it was designed to be that way. But it was changed, and so as a consequence, now we have things that are just terrible. There's a phony fire tax that was done. There were other things that were done to make the rural taxpayers pay for the benefit of the urban areas. And more people are beginning to realize that now, and there's two movements that I'm aware of. One is the Jefferson state movement.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's pretty. They got signs everywhere.
Right.
And they recognize that we have to return to having a representative for the counties, and then we can solve some of these problems. And the other movement is the new California state, which is more fundamental and has more counties involved. Where the Jeffersons, I think they have 21, 22 counties, but the new California state has almost all the counties except for the highly urban areas. So, but it's also more fundamental because it's calling for federal involvement to recognize the new California state. And I personally, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but one thing for sure, if we have good dialogue, and especially at the community level, if we can communicate with each other and talk about basic concepts and basic rights that we have, we're going to pull out it fine without, without a whole lot of problems.
Well, and community is our theme.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about communication before, which really brings key issues to the middle, and so everyone could hash them out. And I think that's important. Where in the Constitution does it say that we have to pay all these different taxes?
Well, the clauses in the Constitution delineate the powers between the states and the federal government. And there is a clause that allows, I think, in the 14th Amendment, that allows the federal government actually tax individual people. And if you look, if you Google that and try to find out what's the reasoning behind that, you find it's very shallow reasoning. At that time, they thought, well, the rich are too rich. Maybe by taxing the rich, we can make people more equal. And it didn't work very well. And what it did, it turned a system of pretty horrible oppression of all the people. Mm-hmm. And
I bet the rich didn't like that very much.
Well, the rich didn't pay anyway. They had their money in overseas accounts.
Right.
When our taxpayer group, I'm president of the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association, and also I'm a director on CABA, which is the Copperopolis Area Business Association. I'm also a member of the Assessors Appeals Board. So I try to keep involved with the community and try to keep positive, and so that we can protect the rights of all our people. Now, one thing we have to remember when we use the word community, we're not talking about communism. Marxist communism doesn't call for voluntary association. You're forced to join. And if you don't, you could be killed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's different. So when you talk about community...
A little oppressive, right?
Yeah, we're not talking about... When we talk about cooperation and community, we're not talking about communism, socialism, or any of that. We're talking about people voluntarily getting together for a mutual benefit.
Well, it's us.
Yeah.
And so back to your book here. You have a book. There you go. And this is a little Constitution book, and this houses the whole Constitution.
Yeah, not only the Constitution, but also the Bill of Rights. And also, it has the 20 top Supreme Court cases that this sometimes is used by attorneys for reference. And it has some really interesting, really tidbits of information that make it fun reading. It's the only Constitution book that I know of that has that's fun to read. And our taxpayer group has bought a number of these. We were hoping to get it to all the high school kids. We didn't quite get that together. We're trying to raise $10,000 for prizes, and it's by fault. I was not able to organize that enough.
How do we get the kids to read this book? Now, the book is about the size of a device, a cell phone, but they can't do this to it because really all they ever do is this. If we could get them to open this book and read it, It might give them some insight about how government works, because right now there's a presidential race, and we don't want to get into the minutia of that, but we can really see that it's split, and there needs to be some knowledge behind it.
Oh, you're so right. Your principles will solve the problems that created by political parties. If they stick with the principles, stick with the Constitution, we're going to be okay. But when you get into power politics and even pressure groups or special interest groups, sometimes we lose sight of everybody has the right to life, liberty, and property, and the purpose of government is to protect that. That's a lot different than what a lot of people think government ought to be doing.
Yeah, I like that happiness part too.
Yeah.
That's always a good one.
We want, not only do we want to be happy ourselves, we want our kids and their kids and their kids and their kids and for the next 200 years to be happy.
And it seems like we're piling stuff up on future children to take care of our garbage that we're doing right now.
Like the national debt.
Yeah, and also that big plastic island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which I find just ridiculous that, that's going to take years to remediate.
There's some good efforts to get that cleaned up.
Yeah.
There's some volunteer groups, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's cleaned up within a year or two.
And it should be.
Yeah.
You and I are going to figure out how to promote this book, the U.S. Constitution. It's actually kind of like a little Bible for our country.
Yes, it is.
And maybe not as old, and doesn't have as many heavies as the Bible does, but it's certainly heavy, and the people who wrote this book were really intelligent. We could talk about them later, because some of the characters back then had to have a mindset to bring this forward.
It's amazing, in the environment that this country was created, there was slavery, which had gone on for thousands and thousands of years. And in this book, they had the foresight to work out of it and to move. Well, it took a civil war, which may not have been necessary. With good communication, that could have been avoided. But the precepts and concepts in the Constitution do not tolerate slavery. You cannot have the rights to life, liberty, and property as an individual and be a slave.
Right.
You can't own other people. I mean, it's just...
It's also a contradiction in terms as far as having a slave.
Right.
You want life, liberty, and then, but I have a slave. That doesn't quite work.
You can't make a person's property.
Nowadays, we're just, I feel like I am still a slave, but I'm a slave to PG&E and all my bills. You know, that's kind of the slave that you're at now. But anyway, Al, I want you to stay with me for 1 second as I go into the next thing, and because we touched on this. The word of the day is community, and I want to explain what the dictionary says. It's a social group of any size whose members reside in a specific locality, and Copperopolis is just that. That's the reason why I like having us all together. The other one is that it's a social, religious, occupational, or other group sharing common characteristics or interests, which on your end you like to focus on taxes, but there's a lot of other interests going on too. Let me just take this for instance. I have some quilts behind me, and the ladies who are from the Lake Tulloch Quilters Guild are here with me today. And the interest is taking pieces of material and sewing them together to very pretty quilts, and that's a community interest.
It also takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, well, definitely, and it's something I probably couldn't do, but what I can do is admire it, and I admired the ladies' work from the very beginning when I saw them at our Coppertown Square event, and I've been following them, so I just wanted you all to notice in the background are the quilts. And that is community. Community could be tax problems, it could be a picnic at church, it could be the quilts, it could be me water skiing on Lake Tulloch, which is really what I'm all about. So that's the word of the day, community. And so I really appreciate it, Al. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll see each other out on the street, I'm sure. So, all right. Okay, for my next guest, we're going to bring Cyndie up, and Cyndie is from Fourth Wall Entertainment Troupe, but she also is now the owner of the Metropolitan in San Andreas, which is a great venue that's been around for a long, long time. Come on up, Cyndie. How you doing?
Good, Rich. How are you?
Good. So the Metropolitan, let's talk about that first, because it's actually been there for a long, long, long time.
It sure has. It was a hotel originally, built in back in 1858.
I was in kindergarten then.
Yeah. I was preschool. A fire consumed it in 1926, and it sat vacant for many years after that. In fact, there's a lot of old-timers around the area that remember playing in the rubble and the bricks from that fire. So then post-World War II, late 40s, maybe early 50s, I don't have an exact date, they brought in a Quonset hut and built a movie theater. So the movie theater was there for about 30 years, and then in the 80s, a local gentleman, Don Cuneo, renovated the space into an event venue and was trying to find a home for the Calaveras Arts Council with that. And it was Don Cuneo who came up with the idea, hey, let's go back to the name of that old hotel that used to sit here, the Metropolitan. So it's a building rich in history, and that site. So we're down on historic Main Street in San Andreas.
Well, and so I've played my band in San Andreas a lot of times at the Red Brick, which is now Goonies. And it appeared that Ken Foley owned a lot of buildings. So the Met was happening back then, but he never really did anything with it because he's a busy person.
Right.
And I think that it was smart of him to hand the baton to you because you're really a theater person, aren't you?
I am. My background is definitely in performing arts, management and directing. So we have a pretty full schedule of things going on. In fact, I'm well into 2020 at this point with our events. So it's our goal to bring some culture to our community and bring some people into San Andreas and see what we've got to offer too, because we do have a beautiful little historic Main Street with several amazing businesses, wine tasting, restaurants, arts.
The art galleries there.
Arts Council has a gallery right there on our little Main Street. So,
and even the newspaper.
Yeah,
So.
the Calaveras Enterprise. Yeah, Main Street's a hopping little place.
Yeah. So let's see what you got here.
Well, here I've got my cheat sheet on the back, but here's our events coming up for September.
If you get on her mailing list, especially email, you could keep in touch with all these things. But this flyer has all the little events that she has. She's a very hard worker and a very good promoter. And so by paying attention to your events, what do you got?
Well, a big one tomorrow. We're hosting the State of the County. The Chamber of Commerce is having a breakfast first thing tomorrow morning, September 6th. And we've got about 130 people coming in for a huge breakfast.
To find out how the county's doing?
I guess, yeah, I can get all the bigwigs in there and rub elbows and see what's going on.
Oh my goodness, did I not turn my
Rich,
cell phone
come
off? I'm
on.
a bad boy.
Bad form. Bad host.
I'm telling you.
So we've got all these cool county officials and people coming in for breakfast tomorrow. My husband will be catering for the 140 or however many people come to that. Then on the weekend, on Saturday, we're hosting our first our karaoke. We have a karaoke party the first Saturday of each month, themed, and so this month is pirate themed karaoke party.
I'm down with that.
In honor of Talk Like a Pirate Day, which is September 19th, for those of you who didn't know that.
My brothers must probably be coming to that.
Yeah. Let's see, what do we have next?
Hey,
next
that was karaoke, right?
That's karaoke.
I don't want to go too far in the past,
That's all
but
right.
didn't you just house the national...
We
Tell me about
had
that.
the World Championships
World
karaoke
Champions.
qualifiers at the Metropolitan. That was about a 4-month-long process of contest and getting it down to a select few who then went on to state and finals. We had one gentleman who Thomas made it into the top 8 for nationals. So we're extremely proud of all of our contestants from Team Metropolitan. So then we've got other people from California that are going on to Japan for a
That's
world.
fantastic.
So pretty exciting.
I got to get out there and start singing some karaoke. We have karaoke at the Poorhouse here in Copperopolis, and so there's places that you could go out and sing.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, a couple drinks and I sing a lot better too. So
I bet I do too to you if you've had more drinks. Yeah. The more you drink, the better I sound. Next weekend is something really fun. On the 14th of September, the San Andreas Rotary is hosting a wine, cheese, and olive festival at the Metropolitan. The Rotary does great things for our community. They've been extremely kind to us and supportive of us at the Metropolitan. So they're having that from 4 to 8 on September 14th, wine, cheese, and olive, featuring all local vendors. So that's exciting.
I love pickled olives.
We'll have olive oil and bread, and there'll be a lot of different appetizers and things. So you just pay at the door, you get your glass, and you just all out in the parking lot, inside, outside.
Does your husband do the cooking for that?
My husband's not cooking for this one because Rotary has brought in vendors of their own to provide food. But
he does a great job. I've had lunch at the Met a couple times, and he does a great job. His schnitzel, and he's a specialty cook, right?
Yeah. He's from Germany, so that's where his heart is. So you'll be able to sample more of that at our Oktoberfest next month.
Oh, nice.
So
well, that's a German event.
That. Yes, yeah.
Make sure he doesn't drink all the beer.
You better get there early. So let me plug Peter Pan also. We do off-the-wall youth theater troupe. We're working on Peter Pan right now with the kids, and they are doing a fantastic job. We've got 17 children from Calaveras County from age 5 to 18 working on Peter Pan. So that'll be on September 20th through 22nd and 27th through 29th. So we're excited about that.
Well, and let me tell you how that hooks into my theme, and that is that you're offering something for the children to get involved with, and again, they're not on their little thing going like this. This is something that we as people and parents have to do. We have to offer I tell my kid, okay, off the computer and go outside. Well, what do? Go outside. You know, when I was a kid, I used to take a stick and a rock or whatever. We got to get them into other things.
Yeah,
and I think that Peter Pan is a tradition, something that everyone could hook into, just like Wizard of Oz or any of those traditional things. And it gives the kids something to do, which is part of community. So,
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm into bands and all that, but that's a specific crowd.
Yeah.
You're into theater.
Yep.
But that's kind of a specific crowd.
It is.
So-
That's why we try to do a little of everything. I mean, sure, I'd love to sit around and produce obscure works of art and plays, but the fact is you need to appeal to the whole community, and not everybody wants to see Waiting for Godot or, you know.
Right.
So we're doing things from beer pong tournaments to live theater to painting classes. We're trying to hit everything, and we're open to suggestions.
Well, Anna, I'm very proud of you for what you've done, because I've been around there and I've watched that room. Being a promoter, I watch rooms where people could go and I could play my music, and it's really not done much. There's been a few biker gigs there in the past and stuff, but you've really jettisoned into a whole nother spectrum. So if we pay attention to the Metropolitan, and we'll end up there for something or other.
I hope so. Thank you.
And the food is really good, and you're serving beer and wine.
We are. We have a...
So you have a little bar, and you could have a nice glass of wine. And how about the wine? What, you have local wines?
Yes, we have local wines, mostly, well, Catano Winery in San Andres is the wine sponsor for our paint and sip nights, painting with Pandora. Pandora Muterdes out of Arnold does our paint and sip classes the last Monday of every month. So Catano Winery is our sponsor for that. We also carry several out of Murphy's, some Newsom Harlow, some 10 by 10, Aloria, Renner. Just try to keep it local.
And keep our money here.
Yes.
You know, because I owned a restaurant once, and in Sonora, and they opened up the Applebee's. As soon as they did, I go, I'm out of business. Because a lot of times corporate comes in and takes things away from us. And I think that the local hardware store, the local restaurant, we have to spend our money there. And I don't mind going to the IGA. They have a great market there. Things might be a couple pennies more, but at least we have a market in town.
Right.
And so, and it's the same with San Andreas, because it's a small town. It needs help. And so there you go, community.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but I appreciate you, and I'm going to come as much as I can, especially for your husband's schnitzel.
Yeah.
And you also have a Philly cheesesteak, which isn't very German, but it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
You like all that German food? Or?
I do. That's how I keep my girlish figure. Yeah, he's been making homemade spatzle down there at the Met and just all kinds of great stuff. So we're definitely excited about our Oktoberfest, October 12th. And just all kinds of cool stuff coming up. Murder Mystery coming up in November.
Oh, those are fun.
That one's going to be really fun. It's a Wild West theme, so we'll have a lot of local celebrity historical figures in it. We'll see a young Sam Clemens and a young Charles Bowles.
See, and there you go again, is that our community is deep in history, and that's why I want to mention one thing is you could see right here, the Mark Twain Wild West Fest is coming up in Angels Camp. And all of those period guys, Mark Twain and all them are going to be there. And it's phenomenal for the kids to understand the history and maybe brush against this and find out where we're coming from. And community comes from not only when we started the country, but all the way along to where we came west and made this all happen, because really our community brought people west because of the gold. So we had to find some again. But
Let me know how that works out.
Yeah, I know. Well, if I find some, I'm bringing it and spending it at the Met.
Deal.
So I really appreciate you, and thanks for coming.
Thanks, Rich. It was nice to be here.
We'll see you out there.
All right.
For sure. Thanks, Cyndie.
Thank you.
You know, putting this all together, all the entertainment that we have, we've got the Mark Twain Wild West Fest, and we do a lot of shows here at the Copper Square, lots of concerts. There's a concert every weekend here in the summertime, and so events bring people here, and people, our community, that's where our theme is. But I've been talking basically two-dimensional, and if you look at it like a monopoly board, you've got your houses and your hotels and your events at the parks and stuff, but how do people find out about that? Well, I keep kidding about the kids, because the kids are always on their devices, but these devices are now really important. And so I want to meet you up to someone who's from Valley Springs, by the way. This is a worldwide character that I've known for a long time, from back in the Bill Graham days and throwing concerts in San Francisco Bay Area. But I'd like for you to meet Nolan Apostle. Come on up, Nolan. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. So Nolan, I know what you do, but I want to stitch this community thing into a three-dimensional digital thing, because that's really the Creative Community Co-op, which is our nonprofit new business association that we started, kind of like a chamber of commerce, but it's for talent, not for corporate. I'll have to explain that to you later, but what I'm doing here is bringing all this stuff that's happening, which I call kind of flat on the playing board, digital. So what do you do? Event marketing, tell us about that.
Well, this is live. We live. Hi, everyone. And Rich, thanks for bringing me here. This is a great opportunity. You know, I think the biggest thing was my notes. I don't have my notes, so
you're gonna have to wing it.
I'm winging it. No, it's. I think the community here, the community in Valley Springs, the community in San Francisco and Los Angeles, anywhere in the world you go, it's hard to get away from the digital world these days. I'm an old schooler. We both are. We come from the day when there was no cell phones.
We used to have to put posters up on telephone poles.
Posters on telephone poles.
Yeah, that's how I got people to my gig.
Yeah, and a lot of, I mean, Bill Graham, I used to put out flyers for Bill Graham back in the late 70s when I was still in high school. And I think it's come such a long way but at the same time, you can't let go of those old school ways. And I fight every day with technology. I love my phone one minute, I can't stand it the next. Same with my computers. Same with, and I manage a development team of about 15 programmers from different parts of the world as well as the United States. And I think, and Richie and I were talking about this the other day, this three-dimensional concept that he came up with, I love it because it does help to understand, especially for people who don't even want to understand technology or stay away from it. They're like this, oh, please keep me away.
Old schoolers.
Old schoolers. They have a much better way, or this is a much better way to help them understand this three-dimensional concept. And really that concept starts with us. It starts with who we are and what we're doing. And albeit we're all here, we're physically here, we're not all on computers watching each other, watching this happen. This is, I think, part of that three-dimension.
Well, you're from Valley Springs, which is from our county. So when I'm talking about local specific community functions, you're right in there. But you're a worldwide guy. So from Valley Springs, right up into the world and around it, you put a portal together.
Yeah, so he said that as I was walking up here, a worldwide guy. And I've only been to a few other parts of the world, but I get what he's saying. When I'm online, I could be anywhere. All of us know that. So I think the kind of the exciting thing about that is that, which is part of how I concepted the whole idea of Event City, was a global network of people who do what we do. That was the original concept back.
It's the gig economy.
Well, even before then, I worked with Steve Case of America Online and saw what America Online was doing, and there were some parallels to my concept. And when I sat down with Steve and said, hey, look, I'm trying to do this thing, and it's just driving me nuts because there doesn't seem to be a platform on there. America Online seems to be that platform. And he said it can be, but just a little piece. He said, never put the whole thing up at once. And I listened to him, and it's really have helped me to slowly sort of leak what we're doing from literally the early to mid 90s to now. And it has become that gig economy, like Rich just mentioned. The gig economy is, many of us have been involved in the gig economy for years, from truck drivers to taxi cab drivers, people in construction, even in the world that we come from, entertainment, producing
Especially
shows.
the world that we come from.
Yeah, shows, events.
Nobody works for
concerts.
anyone in the entertainment business.
Yes. Yeah, and so you're all a quote-unquote gig worker. And you'll hear a lot about this on the news over the next few months, at least. There's a bill that they're trying to get passed that don't want to get into that, but it's all involving the gig economy. And I was in San Francisco kind of at the right place at the right time when a company called Sidecar decided to get out there and start doing what they call ride sharing. Even before Uber, you may hear Uber was the first, but they were not. It was a company called Sidecar. I became their marketing and promotions guy on the street. So I talked to customers, potential customers. I set up deals with hotels, restaurants, bars, nightclubs. So Sidecar, so we could set up a table and give away free rides, get drivers. I've spoken to thousands and thousands of drivers over since 2011. And I don't think there's anybody else in this industry that has actually done that. And that ties into our company, Event City, because back then it didn't, but now it does, because the gig economy is so prevalent in who we are and what we do everywhere. I mean, many of you may or may not know.
You could work.
Yeah, if Uber and Lyft are in your town, they're here in English. Years ago, I did at Cyndi's venue. I did a number of events at the Met, and it's a great place. It's a great place for doing an event. I love loyalty. On the peninsula, it was very difficult to find that loyalty. And I think that's what needs to happen here in any community. The world, or at least our world, is running out of places for live music to perform and for people to go and enjoy. Whether it doesn't have to be rock and roll, it could be jazz, R&B, it could be swing. we're missing these locations, and we need to bring them back.
Well, when people could come visit us see our music.
I applaud what Cyndie's doing at the Met, because it's a step, you know, and doing theater there as well, it really will help. I mean, again, bringing that community together, because that's what theater always was about, community. When you think back, even back to the days of Shakespeare, you know, that's how people gathered. They gathered because... I
wonder how much tickets were back then.
I don't know. 3 rocks and a...
3 rocks and,
3 rocks and a
stick.
And a stick, yeah.
Hey, so I appreciate you coming here, and Nolan, you and I are going to work heavily together in stitching this whole thing together digitally so it can make sense and bring more focus towards our events and our community. So absolutely. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
And you're coming back. All right. So now, to show you some real copper style entertainment, this is real important because we're talking about events, we're talking about entertainment, we're talking about artwork, which can be on canvas or quilts. And this is all part of love. One of the things I promote, and I got to tell you something my dad told me a long time ago, is that you could say I love you and it's free. You can give as much love away as you want, and it's immediately renewable. And I thought to myself, you're right. And then he brought it also to say you could say please and thank you too. But I was a kid, so I might have missed that one. But love is really important, and I think that comes out of entertainment. So to show you some real copper-style entertainment, I want to introduce our own group from right here in Copperopolis. It's the Gold Rhythm Band with Vince and Vicki. And you guys are my favorites, so give us something. Fantastic. Now, how community can you get then over the rainbow? Because really, this where we live is where the pot of gold is, and that's why I came up here from the Bay Area. I've been coming here since I was 14 to go water skiing and recreate, but really, as the Bay Area is kind of getting congested, this is where the pot of gold is, and I think that where the gold is where the love is too. So I really like that, and I have one more time for one more guest, and the reason why I'm going to stretch my time a little bit is because I saw him come into the audience to watch the show, but I'm going to drag up here our county supervisor, Dennis Mills. Come on up, Dennis. First, thanks for coming to the show. Come on up. Welcome.
It's a great background.
This is better than John. You know, Johnny Carson and Leno and all them have a cityscape. And I thought, well, that won't work here. And then I thought, well, why don't we, have a scape? And at my house, I have a tree. And I thought, well, that's a beautiful oak tree, but the tree isn't going to be very,
But this is the minds of individuals, the creative nature of a person who thought these up.
Right.
It's just not duplicatable in a
Well,
way.
when I saw these, the ladies had them spread out at our event here at the Copper Valley, and I looked at them. I go, man, these people are rock stars. They really are in their way, because a musician will create a song and record it. Well, these folks have to cut these things out and make these. I couldn't do it, I don't think.
This is not embroidery.
Yeah. So I'm really impressed. But I'm glad that you came up to see me. And our theme is community, if you've noticed in the audience and stuff. And I really think that you promote that a lot. I know you're a politician, and you're at the whim of your constituency, and you're also at the whim of the paperwork you have to dive through without, you probably have stacks of documents. And I think you do that quite well, but I think really community is really why you're here, right?
Absolutely. There's a need to serve. And my history goes back to the time as even a county firefighter. It's always been about serving the community. How do you help neighbors, help friends, and try to make the place better? So that's really what it's all about.
Well, in your case, there's a lot. Let's just talk music. There's a lot of different music, and heavy metal or grunge rock may not appease a lot of folks, but appeases some. And symphony music may not appease the heavy metal guys, but appeases these people. And you have to appease a lot of different tastes. Sometimes it's a challenge.
It is. And it has to come down to, my background in corporate was customer service and actually teaching that on a national level. So it really comes down to listening and being able to feed back and trying to reach compromises. And this is not a position where somebody, an elected official, takes a heavy hand. You really have to weigh everything out and try to figure out what is best for the community and what is the laws that are restricting you and keeping you from doing certain things.
Well, I was going to mention that a lot of what you were just saying is about love, but then you mentioned the word laws, and a lot of times laws aren't really loving, but they have a necessary function.
Yes.
I personally don't like any laws except for the first 10 that were made, and we could talk about those 10 if you don't know what they are. But I don't really like laws, but they are very necessary. So as I grew up, I accepted some of these laws.
Sure.
And you have people that advocate those laws, such as Al watches the tax laws. That's good for our information. Mm-hmm. But I probably would think that sometimes you're very popular for doing the things that you do, and sometimes you may not be so popular because you have to at least comply to what these things are.
And there's layers of government, as you know. And
yeah.
The only thing that the supervisors really have an authority to do is budgets, land use, policy. That's it.
Yeah.
When we dig into the minutia and try to micromanage every piece of government, we're going to get into some real sticky wickets quickly. So we need to maintain a higher level of looking at the larger picture and seeing how does each of these decisions impact the communities as a whole.
Well, so I've been preaching communication around here as part of my mantra of community. And what you're saying to me is that a lot of this stuff, communication is key into making the decision upon these facts.
Absolutely. So no matter what, even if what's the general plan, as we just passed our first general plan update in 23 years here in Calaveras County, the amount of paperwork that was necessary for us to understand each of those components, those elements within the general plan, you're talking about plus taking input from the public, and everybody has an interest in it. So there's a lot of time and effort that goes into each decision that's made.
Yeah, I've watched you work along with your compadres, and I see that there's also a mixed bag of supervisors. So it's not like you all sway to this way or sway to that way together. Right. So that's a challenge in itself, is getting everyone on the same page.
True. It takes 3 votes to make any decision, And oftentimes you're appealing to your fellow board members for a particular cause, not that you're going to win every fight. When I was on the general plan decision, I presented over 300 amendments to that general plan. I got 47. I consider that a win to just get those. So,
what do you think is your deficiency in communication?
Lacking time.
Time eats up.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, in the sales world, it's called time kills all deals.
True.
That's a saying.
Well, we, as a board, we sit on 34 committees, commissions, and various organizations. I sit on 11 of them myself. Plus, there's individual interests that I have within the community, such as dealing and helping Copper Fire and what they do, and helping the Lions Club, and helping the various organizations here locally. That takes time as well. So it isn't a 9-to-5 job. There's no such thing. I think sometimes we've got springs loose in our head to be involved in politics. So
I heard from your wife yesterday at the Chamber of Commerce Good Morning that you do have a spring loose, because I heard that you were going to run again, and she goes, "Well, I can't stop them."
I haven't formally announced, and we will make that announcement when the time is right.
Well,
I don't see this, just so everybody so understands, I don't think that anybody who gets into these positions, whether you're in Congress or a supervisor, should consider this a career. There should be a time to serve and walk away. Allow somebody else the opportunity to do it.
And I was going to say that in order for there to be an election, there needs to be another side, another party, and I'm very interested to see what that other party musters up and offers. And I'm sure that there's good people out there, and I'm sure that when the time comes that there might be a competitive nature to that, because that's what an election is. But I'm very interested to see. I've watched you closely and the board since I've moved here, and there's been a lot of challenges, and you guys have dug through and actually have accomplished some things.
This is a very functional board right now. Whether we all agree on the same topics isn't the issue. The issue is we can discuss topics openly. We don't get our feelings hurt when we try to reach conclusions, and we're willing to do our homework and to engage staff where necessary to get those questions answered that we need to have answered. That's what it's all about. Where you have divisive boards, nothing good comes of it.
And I heard in our history that there has been a few boards that maybe weren't as optimized.
Correct.
And so having this board optimized, well, let's just hope that the voters understand that they're getting the service that they deserve for the person they put in there.
Correct.
And but basically, no matter if you continue on or what you do or whatever, you're still going to be in the community.
Absolutely.
And you'll probably serve in other ways, or you do serve in other ways that isn't related to the Board of Supervisor. I know one thing that we did, and maybe on one of these programs you'll see the clip, but Dennis invited some what I call big cheeses to go and see our...
Let me explain. What I did was that anytime I deal with the federal government, I don't talk to them directly. I go through my congressman and his staff to make those arrangements, set those meetings up, and I always have a member of his staff present in those meetings. So I had Matt Reed from Congressman McClintock's office set up with Drew Lazar with Bureau of Reclamation to take a tour of the spillway at New Maloney's. Everybody is familiar with Oroville, and is this another Oroville potential situation here? I wanted to be sure, so I brought the head state geologist with us, and our OES director. We had our assistant CAO. We had our people from Copperopolis Fire District were there present to actually just literally drive in the spillway and to look it over.
Which we show.
I think you were very impressed with what you saw.
Oh, yeah.
But it's to assure the people, especially in Copperopolis, that there is no immediate danger, there's no potential threat, that spillway, is the way it's designed, will never be an Oroville situation, and that they can be rest assured that they're safe.
Well, just real quick, let me just tell you that the Oroville spillway was made out of concrete and very steep. And our spillway is actually hewn out of really hard rock, and it was nice to see the state geologists pick up a rock and go, this is really hard rock. So, you know, the water's going to come down slowly and dissipate. That comes over the spill, and it's not going to be that high of a spill, so it's not going to come down like Orville and then erode. So I think that we're pretty safe for getting a flood down in Tulloch.
And the Army Corps and the Bureau have done a great job this year. Remember, spring of 2019, we had twice the normal rainfall and twice the normal snowpack in the high country. And even with that, they were able to contain all of that runoff and still maintain an 8,000 CFS maximum flow down at Goodwin Dam, which is what they need to have to prevent damage to the levees and the area below us.
So cubic feet
per second,
8,000 of them, basically 8,000 milk bottles.
Correct.
In 1 second can get through Goodwin, which is underneath us.
Correct.
And if it's any more, then there could be a slight problem.
Well, here was the ultimate goal, is it's not just for irrigation. New Maloney's was established because of its ability to protect the downstream communities, such as Oakdale and Riverbank, and even Tracy. I can remember as a kid, 6 inches of water at the stoplight on F Street in Oakdale because the water would come up that high. We have not had any major flooding in that area now, going back to the 1980, 81, 82. 82, 83 was when we filled the dam, if you recall.
Right.
So that has allowed them to construct homes in those low grounds and those communities and make that land available for better infill in those communities and save literally millions of dollars in potential damage from having flood events.
Well, and so you may not think, people may not think of this that we're talking about while they're at the Mark Twain Fest or having fun at their event, but really infrastructure allows us to play in our recreational area safely.
And we have a unique lake with Lake Tulloch. It is only one of 5 in the western states that is a federally controlled reservoir with private property rights under the water. And a lot of those are fee simple titles. And if you don't know what that is, please look it up if you're one of those property owners, because it has a lot to do with your rights. So I have asked the board to create a JPA with Tuolumne County. They went 5-0 on it to move forward with that. We still need to get a full agreement with the Tuolumne board to provide a uniform level of operate. How is that lake operated and controlled? And so we are moving forward with drafting a dock ordinance that would be mirroring Tuolumne County, so that all of your permits would come through Calaveras County, and we would be doing the inspections on those docks, just as Tuolumne County does now. I already had a conversation with Jeff Shields, the general manager, Tridam, within the last week over it. He liked what Tuolumne County's done, so there's opportunity here, but I think that lake is overutilized. And so I'm pushing forward with some of the Prop 68 money that we just are going to receive here. It's guaranteed to push forward with some type of an access to New Maloney's from O'Byrne's Fair. I know that former Supervisor Russ Thomas was pushing for that. We did add it to our general plan as a priority. So we're going to move forward with trying to get that accomplished.
All right. Well, you're doing hard work out there, and some of it, from my viewpoint, is a little bit thankless, because people who are entertaining themselves, which is the business I'm in, don't think about these things and how important they are till when we're living here and in a free society with liberty and everything that Al mentioned. So in closing, I do want to tell everyone that that you're very talented. Now, I heard a rumor that you were in the entertainment business once.
I actually operated the first discotheque in Chicago in 1978.
Did you get out there? And
absolutely did. Yeah, it was back in the days when we were still using a lot of tube amps, if you remember.
Sure.
We had 4 1,000-watt channels, and I had a marble slab on a rubber bass to keep the bass notes from vibrating back into my TX
okay.
record changers.
The sound guy's laughing at that.
And not only that, but our TX were set up so that they could sync the beats, so that the beats of one sound, one music segment could flow into the next, and you never had to have a break and lose the music cycle. And plus we had the ball and all of the lights and the floor.
So when you were young, did your parents go, Dennis, turn that darn stuff down?
They did. Before that, though, I was booking live entertainment in Madison, Wisconsin with a 3-star. I had operated a 3-star restaurant there. I was booking live entertainment like Sha Na Na and Fats Domino, and working with Fuzzy Thurston at the left guard, who was the former left guard for the Green Bay Packers. We'd have lunch together and decide what kind of entertainment, because we always tried to work it out to where everybody was, whoever had the headliner, if we're going to spend $10,000 a week to run a 5-night show, you wanted to be sure that one headliner was going to bleed over and everybody was going to benefit from it. So we worked very hard to be sure that we all coordinated well. And I had another operation called Fat Fannies, believe it or not, that was the third of that group. And it was a good time, had a lot of fun.
Well, you know, we're going to have a great concert here, right here at the Town Center this Saturday, and it's going to be the Columbia Jazz Band.
I have heard them. They are amazing. If you haven't heard them, they are amazing.
Yeah,
Please come and listen.
So, and I come from, like the Beatles had 4 guys, but really, there's all kinds of music, and we enjoy all kinds of music around here. So this is going to be a fantastic, full horns and everything.
Well, let's make Copperopolis a destination and not just a waypoint. Let's start to develop the community spirit that we can be a place where people can come and have entertainment and enjoy themselves and be able to bring their kids
and buy an affordable house. Because it's really not that far. As we were talking with Nolan, if we add that internet 3-dimensional to it, then actually you could live here and telecommute.
We have telecommuters here now because of the broadband that we have available to us. One is the works for NASA as a programmer that telecommutes.
Yeah.
So I know that it can be done.
I want to be on the lake with my iPad going, man, what are the poor people doing right now? You know, that's what I want to be doing. But that's a dream. And so, Dennis, I really appreciate you coming up here and summarizing this whole thing about community. And I think that we're on the same page when it comes to that. And we're going to work together to communicate these ideas to our folks around here. And there could be 2 different sides,
Sure.
So it's not going to be easy.
No, but it's just a matter of, if there are 2 sides, let's sit down and talk. Let's have those conversations. You know, if you're working from a distance or making communication from it, it doesn't get heard. So let's be sure that we do communicate, and we're open to do that. My phone is always available. My email is available. I call people back, even from other parts of this county. And
you've come to my coffee clutches, and sure. You've been available to people who come to the coffee clutch and want to talk, and you're there. And right. You know, I think that you're really doing everything you can do to be available. You know, so you're not a secret supervisor. No. So I appreciate that. And I'm probably going to follow you around with my cameras and see if I can harvest a little more news. We'll do that in a nonpartisan way. Sure. The last one was safety, and the next one could be the new PG&E thing where...
power safety shutoff?
Yeah, our power safety shutoff, I think, is something that the whole community needs to know about.
I was very deeply involved in that when it first came up. So
well, we'll work together, and it's going to be a fantastic future, and it's all about our community.
Well, thank you for bringing me in.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Dennis Mills. Okay, so that about wraps it up for our Good Morning show, and we had a great bunch of guests, and we're going to do this again, and we enjoyed the quilts, and we're enjoying our community. So thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you next time.